next morning, they were found on the front steps, drained of blood.
What's up, Exeters? Today, we're in New Orleans, Louisiana, here to check out the Ursuline, hope I said that right, convent.
So we know New Orleans is littered with ghost stories, but they're also littered with vampire stories. And the main one, aside from Anne Rice's, but the main one that birthed it all supposedly happened, the Ursuline convent.
Yeah, this is going to be good. So join us on this adventure.
So usually when you come here to the Ursuline convent, it's locked up tight all the time. There's walls that are like taller than you. It's impossible to see the whole building. Like you can see the top, but
Yeah,
the whole building itself.
From across the street, you can see from about the second story to the roof. That's all you get.
So you can take tours on the inside, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to actually take you inside. Those tours happen on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, and they only do them up until 1:15 during the day. So if you're not here by the end, out of luck. So, supposedly back in the day, this guy, his last name was Bienville. You know, him and his brother had explored the Gulf Coast. We know Bienville from Bienville Square in Mobile.
Ah, okay. that makes sense. Okay.
So he came here and he's like, yeah, this land's like a lot cooler than Mobile. I think we should, establish this area. Well, of course, there were like native, like Indians already here and everything. So they basically established this and they wanted to call it New Orleans. So he's the one that kind of created this. They built it up. And honestly, the guys that were here, because there was a lot of guys, it was a sausage fest, okay? They weren't the best guys. They supposedly, like a lot, it was like a dumping ground.
Huh.
But one thing they lacked was women, right? They needed women. They needed to grow this land.
So there's such a sausage back there.
Okay? So they sent over to France. They're like, hey, we need women. So the first women that actually came to, not in New Orleans, but on down, like I think around Dauphin Island or something, and they were actually called the Pelican Girls. So then, they got wind of this, like, hey, we need our women, so they sent some here. Okay? So the story that ties these women into this actual convent is they were to take these women in and, train them basically how to become wives. And when the time was right, they would get married. So this boat comes bringing these women that are promised here for these men. A lot of them are sickly. They're pale. Some of them are said to be coughing up blood. So you're like, that scared the men.
Yeah, that would scare most people.
And then some stories say that they were carrying large boxes that contained, their belongings, and they were instructed to lock these belongings up until they were ready to wed. And so supposedly the convent locked them on the 3rd floor, sealed it up tight. But when the time came for the first one to get married, they went up there to open said box and it was empty. Now, when they originally came, these things were heavy. So it freaked the nuns out. Vampires. These girls had brought something over with them, or either they themselves were the vampires.
Huh.
So, supposedly, they boarded up that third story. They had someone come in to bless nails that were placed to help close it up, to keep the vampires from getting back in. And their plan was for the sunlight to kill the vampires, rid the problem, right?
Yeah.
Other stories say that it wasn't in fact like a large coffin casket type thing, because that's where these girls got their name from, Casket Girls. Other people say it was actually small, something small, a little small box that had little personal belongings in it. Okay? So let's state the obvious. Why these girls probably look like vampires when they got off this ship. You're on this ship for a long period of time. You're going to lose weight. You're underneath on the bottom. You're going to be pale. And it's said that a lot of them may have contracted tuberculosis. You're going to be coughing up blood.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
So it's understandable why the guys looked at them and were freaked out, because, you know, maybe you would, me too.
Yeah, if you just spent probably 4 to 5 months on a boat, in the bottom part of the boat, you ain't eating good, tuberculosis, yeah. All makes sense.
So supposedly there is an author that was allowed, because not very many people are allowed to go on that third floor, but she was allowed to go up there because she was writing a book about, you know, stuff in New Orleans. So she reported that in one room it was like a brick floor, and there were chains hanging. And in other rooms, there were holes cut in the floor that would be large enough for a casket, but there was nothing there. In the room that had the chains hanging down, there was, I think they call it a Dutch door, where it's the half door. But their excuse was they helped people with mental illnesses. That's why that was there. So the nuns could pass them stuff without actually, I guess, going into the room. It's kind of a little weird with the chains hanging off the wall.
And the holes in the floor. Like, why would you be taking care of mental people and need holes in the floor?
Yeah.
The chains, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe the violent ones, the ones that turn violent, maybe you needed the chains to contain them. But the holes on the floor, large enough for a casket?
Some hardcore thunder. So we've noticed is all the way around that building, these are boarded up, but there is one window up there that's actually hanging open.
Yeah, it looks like it's cracked open about that much.
Now there have been reports too that there was a hurricane that came through that blew one of these open, and they actually flew someone in to re-bless nails, to re-nail it shut.
So why would you need to fly if you're not hiding anything up there or evidence of anything, or you're not worried about something that got out that might come back? Why would you need to fly someone in to re-bless all of the nails? If you're not trying to hide anything or evidence of something, then it shouldn't matter if it gets blown open, because nothing up there. It shouldn't have to be re-blessed unless you're worried about it coming back.
But all of these stories are just that. They're stories. There's nothing proving anything as far as the vampires of New Orleans. However, they have done studies that there are at least 50 vampires that still roam New Orleans today. These people do drink blood, and their reasoning is that their own blood is lacking something and they need to drink human blood to pacify that. I think there's actually a vampire association here.
All right.
So we're going to take you inside to see what at least the bottom floor looks like.
This rectangular building is the oldest building in the Mississippi Valley, the whole middle of the country. This was built in 1747. In 1788, there was a great fire which destroyed most of the city. It was Good Friday. Are you a Catholic?
I was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic.
Okay. Well, anyway, Good Friday, people burn little candles. Well, it started a fire, and they ran to the priest and said, "Why aren't you ringing the bells? That's the fire alarm." Church law, and no bells on Good Friday. So he cost us a city. There was 800 of the 1,100 buildings,
Wow.
and 2 years later we lost 200 more buildings, another fire. So the Spanish were in charge then, and they knew they had to rebuild the city, but they were going to do better than the French. The French didn't use the heads when they built the city.
So in the 1970s, supposedly 2 paranormal investigators jumped that fence, or wall, more like it, because they saw one of the boards up there loose. So they're like, hey, we're going to go in and see what's up there.
That one's cracked open right
The
there.
next morning, they were found on the front steps, drained of blood.
Right there.
So the infamous stairs.
There's an opening right there at the top.
Look at the windows right there. And look at this little creepy door.
Yeah, what do people under the stairs?
So when you come in here to do a tour on the inside, Obviously, they don't want you to go any higher than ground level.
Yeah, because the third floor, even the windows are still, they're boarded up, like shutter style. Like, what are you actually hiding up there? Or what evidence of something are you hiding up there?
Alright, so we just got done with our tour of the Ursuline Convent.
It was pretty cool in there.
It's they give you a lot of information.
Yeah.
Of course, not any vampire information, and they're quick to be like, hey, have you done any of the ghost tours? Just complete crap. Don't believe it. There's no vampires here.
Like, oh, they tried to claim off that vampires were on the third floor, and that's why it shut. That's a load of crap. That's pretty much their answer for that.
So, now that we've given you one of the original vampire stories here in New Orleans, we're going to take you on a vampire tour. We're going to go to a little vampire boutique, vampire cafe to get a blood bag, and we're going to visit the infamous hidden vampire bar, the Dungeon.
Nice. Well, let's keep this party going.
Alright, so to continue our vampire video of New Orleans, we're going to go into this little side store. What was the name of it? Boutique?
Boutique du Vampire or something.
So we're going to check it out. They do custom things there, but you have to book an appointment within 24 hours to get that done. And they usually start at around $200 and go up from there. Just to let you know in case you want to get your vampire on. So this book right here by this author,
We have to keep
this
those baby
is
bats
the
close.
author that got to go actually to the third floor of the Ursuline Convent. She's been one of the only people they've allowed up there to see the third floor where supposedly the coffins
Thanks so
were.
much, guys. Have a great day.
Alright, so to continue our video on these vampires, and we're in the Vampire Cafe now. We'll try one of their blood bags. So they offer two different kinds of alcohol in these. This one we've got is the pomegranate lemonade spiked with vampire vodka. And if you'll notice on their menu, everything comes by blood. A positive, A negative, B.
And those are drinks. They're not the blood bags.
Yeah, you can't get these in blood bags. Just those two. Okay.
Might want to squeeze it or hold it up, yeah.
Do we need to get you an IV card?
You need to hold it up and be like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh. See, if I had my things right now, then I could be like, need blood. Oh. Oh. If I was a vampire, that would be literally how I would drink the blood. I'd be like,
Sounds. It's really what they sound like.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, if you know, you know. It's
it kind of tastes like Kool-Aid. Honestly, there's not a lot of vodka in it. You try it. Not bad.
So,
I could see where though a few of these would hit you. If you drained a couple of these, you'd be like,
I don't taste any alcohol in it.
that might.
I can. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, my taste buds might be like ruined from last night from those drinks.
Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up and suck.
You clipped it.
You clipped it.
You're containing the
Now
pee bag.
now turn it up. Containing the pee bag.
Well, that's pretty good. It does taste like Kool-Aid.
Try the blood. Yeah. It's got a lemon, like a pink lemonade
Oh, God.
Kool-Aid. They had the other one. The other one was like
I automatically reminisce back to my teenage days.
the other one was like a what she said, a sangria.
Sangria.
yeah, the dark one was saying I saw
Yeah.
the one ago.
It's like, I don't know. Isn't that wine?
Day drink is for your 20s, baby. Day drink is for your 20s.
I didn't taste the vodka, but I can
Yeah. I was saying that I bet if you had about 2 or 3 of these, you started getting to that.
We like trying to drink some of Dave's drinks at the treehouse.
Yeah.
Is that rain? Otherwise, something's pooping on me.
I'm doing it.
You finished drinking it.
Again.
Chug it. Turn it up like a vampire would do.
Yeah,
Thirsty.
you gotta go home.
They would rip the bag open and suck it all out. Like,
Because they don't have those nifty pee bag funnels.
that's what I'm saying. They would just rip the side and
Yeah, show us how it's done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
starting to
bring it on
rain.
this man.
I just had a drop, didn't we?
like that.
Alright, so we are heading to what is known as New Orleans' secret vampire bar called the Dungeon. It is nestled, squished in between buildings. And if you didn't know what you were looking for, you could easily miss it. Now, fortunately, they don't allow for videoing inside the bar. We're going to go in and we're going to check it out and let you know what it's all about. Unless we get turned or fed upon. So we'll let you know. Okay, so we made it back to our hotel.
It's hot.
Alive and well. Look, no bite marks.
No bites.
No bites. I'm not a vampire.
No.
That's sad, unfortunately, because I thought I would be shimmery in the sunlight like Edward
But
Cullen.
now
They
they're
could have beat you
vampires.
somewhere else, though. So.
But technically, vampires nowadays are sucking energy. So if you feel tired,
I don't because I work night shift. So guess what, guys? All night
she's
long.
hot. Woo, woo.
Anyway, so the dungeon. Let's talk about that. There wasn't many people there.
Not tonight. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be crunk tomorrow night.
Very empty. It was very interesting though. The way they had the walls spray painted is it puts you like you're in like an alleyway once you go outside because it's got that brick feel to it. Behind the bar, it's like skulls and
Dude stops you at the doors like, hey, let me see that ID and put your phones away. No
yeah.
pictures,
And
no
he was
videos.
he was eyeballing like hardcore because like whenever I went, they have like this seat, kind of like at the end of the bar. And because immediately in my head, you know, I'm thinking like True Blood, like
Like you wanted Eric to go
yes.
down
And
the stairs?
look, did you see the
I feel
little
that.
seat?
Yeah, dude.
Like almost like an
Yes.
Eric would be sitting there, like this is my bar. But unfortunately,
we
there
didn't
was
see him or Pam.
yeah,
so
there's
we're
no
sorry.
Eric there, which was disappointing.
It was.
I'm gonna need you to get an Eric dungeon. So I was like eyeballing that, and I looked over, and the security guard's like hardcore, like eagle eyeing me, like, no, dude, I'm not filming. Like, why? Calm down, calm down.
Yeah, he was eyeballing us whenever we went back downstairs right before we left. And we were just standing there where the little jukebox looking thing was, looking at it. Like, I glanced, and he was standing there at the door like he's just staring.
Like when we went to walk out, I was like, thank you, and he was like, yes. I was like, all right, what else?
So there's 2 floors to this bar. The first floor is like super tiny. It's just a bar. It's got the skulls behind it. There's a bathroom down there.
But upstairs, there's actually cages you can sit in and drink, which is pretty cool.
And what somebody that had been there before, Josh, or was it Josh?
Yeah,
Somebody said that they had been there
Josh had been
before,
there before.
and said that there were people dancing in there.
Yeah, they can. I mean, the cages are big enough you can either sit there or dance and drink. So
But I wonder if it was workers dancing in there, because that would make it more like
I watched a news clip. I don't remember what year it was from. I'd say it was in the 90s. And there was literally people like hanging out in the cages and drinking these weird ass drinks. Oh, my bad. I guess I said these weird drinks and everything. So you never know, man.
I mean, that once you went upstairs, and
It felt different upstairs than it did downstairs.
The other bar that was up there, like that bartender was like eyeballing us big time whenever me and you and Josh and Jody was just standing there looking around. Like he kept like hitting like this. I couldn't tell if it was a towel or a whip or a belt or something.
a whip.
Like
Oh my
on
Lord, I didn't see that.
like on his
You
hand,
tell
and he was
Brady
just
G.
like staring at it, like because those stairs, you know, kind of look like a dance floor part. And
It was
there's,
still
like,
really
this,
small though.
yeah. There's like
I mean,
a
like, think
huge
about it.
mirror, like
if
the
they're
whole room.
the so-called vampires, of course they're going to look at new people like,
He was hungry.
He was definitely hungry.
I know the whole freaking wall up there was nothing but one giant mirror.
Yeah, there were mirrors
It
everywhere.
was. And it's funny that that's at a vampire bar because you know vampires can't see their reflection. So could you imagine like being up there drinking with some dude or some chick
Eric.
and be like, oh yeah, and they're like, hey, you want to go? They're like, yeah, sure. Then you go to leave, but you see beside you when you walk by the mirror and there's no reflection. You're
I'm
like, sure.
not gonna
Oh,
lie.
shut it down.
Look, if he looked like Eric, I would be like,
I mean, if you look like Eric,
I'm still gonna
risk
leave.
to go be undead. It's okay.
I'm still gonna leave.
Right. Be like, we're just gonna act like we didn't see it. Be like, no, I saw him right there. It's fine. It's fine. So, originally the bar was built in 1969 by Howard Clark, and it was, and was, okay, let me rephrase that. It was and still is like the only classic rock bar in New Orleans, and there have been bands like, hold on, my bad. There was Kiss, Queen, ZZ Top, Black Sabbath. They have come there and hung out.
Maybe they were all vampires.
I mean, have you seen Ozzy? I'm pretty sure he's a vamp.
he's getting really old though.
He
Vamps
is.
don't age.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, but he's aging really well.
what about Gene
man.
Simmons? That man's still at it with that.
That man still was young too.
Yes. But yeah, and there's like literally been only one night that a film crew's been in there from like a news station that was in the 90s, and they'd asked before and they kept getting turned down, but Mardi Gras, they allowed them one night for like 20 minutes to come in there with their cameras, and then they shoot them out. And then they had to stand in front of the outside of the building to finish their video. So, you know.
Which is very unusual for New Orleans.
And
'Cause
usually they're all about hype and getting their shit out, and their stuff out there.
unless you're like a street performer that's like a clarinet player that's real sketch about getting.
Oh yeah, she
The
can go
street
suck.
performer I went with.
She can go suck on an egg.
She was like, I'm not playing as long as y'all are filming, so move along.
Oh,
I
that's
should have sat there.
terrible.
Should have sat there. And,
I was here in
For
June,
like an
and the first
hour.
street performer we rolled up on was singing Sex and Candy by Marcy's Playground. I was like, well, that's awkward.
Alright, so we hope you enjoyed this vampire video of New Orleans. So we'll catch you on the next
The next
vodka talking
exit.
exit.